With Danny himself, his trials will be very slow-paced, with him slowly stalking the survivors and toying with them before brutally killing them. He would also likely have several photos of his victims within his domain in the entity's realm, given his journalist background and Mori animation. With Singularity, his trials would be much more logical, calculated, and straightforward, with the AI choosing the most effective way to kill the survivors going against him. Similar to the Blight with the other killers of the realm, Singularity would also experiment on the survivors hunted by him, torturing and extracting genetic material from them to improve on his current incomplete body. Within the Alien's trials, it would be very similar to what we see in the various Alien movies, with the perfect organism stalking and picking off its survivors one by one, causing fear and panic among them until none were left. The Xeno could also capture some of these survivors in an effort to create a hive within the realm, although I doubt the entity would allow this to happen. Within the Legion's trials, it would likely be that all 4 members of the group will be present at once, with the 4 of them hunting down the survivors as a coordinated group as a whole. This would likely end in all of them taking out the final survivor as a brutal team, similar to what we see with the Knight's Mori animation. The Oni's trials would be rather bloody and rage-filled, with Kazan likely killing his survivors in increasingly violent and bloodthirsty methods, causing further fear and panic among the survivors and granting immense sustenance to the malevolent entity. With Pinhead's trials, the unholy Cenobite would subject survivors to incalculable levels of pain and suffering, torturing them much like he and the other Cenobites did to Frank in his original universe. This would please both him and the entity, with the Cenobite falling into a similar role he did with his original master Leviathan. Much like in its lore, I believe the Unknown's trials would consist of the humanoid monstrosity luring the unsuspecting survivors to their doom, picking them off, and consuming them, with the survivors none the wiser until it's too late. Much like the predecessors in the list, I believe Hag's trials would be stealth-oriented, using her traps to get the drop on survivors and kill them. She would likely also eat some of the survivors unfortunate enough to not be sacrificed to the entity, similar to what we see with the Wendigos in Until Dawn. With the Trickster's trials, I believe he would keep his survivors alive as long as possible, putting them through pain and suffering for both his own amusement as well as for his performance, making the other survivors watch as he tortures one of them. This would all be much to the entity's satisfaction. Lastly, the nurse's trials would be quite interesting, as I believe she wouldn't be too inclined to kill the survivors at first, requiring the entity to coerce her into participating. After doing so, I think the nurse would take out her survivors as quickly and painlessly as possible, as shown in her Mori animation, with her possibly even under the idea that she is granting mercy to the survivors from the endless torment that are the trials.